Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist, and today I got second place at Locals playing branded Voiceless Voice. I'm gonna get straight on this profile, guys, but before we do, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell on there so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards. So, we're gonna get straight on to this. I'm super excited to show you guys this list, but before we get into the deck, make sure you guys check out the merch shelf to get your very own awesome Field Center. These things are actual metal, and they're really, really nice. This is the back of them as well. You guys should definitely check those out. So let's go ahead and get straight on into the profile. So first off, we're going to be playing 2 copies of Skull Guardian, Protector of the Voiceless Voice. This card is great as it's 2 of in the deck. It's searchable, which is why you just play 2. It's an Omni Negate when you have low on your side of the field, and it also goes up to 4,100 attack points, getting 2,550 while you have low on the field or in the grave. This card is also a searcher and basically checks every box for what you need for a really good boss monster, and it's also ridiculously easy to summon. We then played 2 copies of Sarvis. Sarvis is really good because it negates special summons when it's on your side of the field and banishes them, and it also has a great ability that it gives you targeting protection as a hand trap, but I feel like 2 is the correct number for this. I don't feel like you need any more than 2 of this. 1 is just too little, 3 is too many. I feel like 2 is perfect. 2 worked great for me all day. We then played 3 copies of Low Protector, or Low Prayers of the Voiceless Voice. This card is great. You have to play this card at 3. So important to be able to play. It can be used as the entire tribute for a ritual summon of a light warrior or dragon, meaning your copies of your Skull Guardian or your copies of your Sarvis. But this card also has a really cool ability that when it's on your side of the field, you can actually put a continuous spell or trap that's a Voiceless Voice card on your side of the field, meaning you can get to your copy of Barrier, which is this card. You can get to your copy of Barrier, or you can get to your copy of Radiance with your copy of Low, which is just really good depending on what you don't have. You can just put them on your side of the field. This is basically a pop. This is a searcher, which is just really good. Plus your opponent cannot ash the copy of Low because it places it on my side of the field instead of searching it, which is really insane. We then play 3 copies of the most important card in the entire deck, and that's going to be 3 copies of Saphira, Dragon Queen of the Voiceless Voice. This card has a great ability that you can actually send this card from your hand to the grave or discard it to be able to send a ritual spell from your deck to the grave and add a light warrior or dragon from your deck to your hand, basically your copy of your Skull Guardian or your copy of your Sarvis. And it also has the ability you can banish this card, and it acts like a ritual spell, so you can ritual summon out your cards, which is crazy. This card is definitely a 3 of, and a card you're always searching off your copy of Barrier, but you always want to make sure you have one of these so you can summon out Skull Guardian or Sarvis. Speaking of Sarvis, we only played the 1 copy of the dragon, or basically the human form of Sarvis. This card is really important as a 1-of in the deck because it lets you recycle your spell cards, including a ritual spell, 2 of them, back into the deck to be able to special summon this dude to your side of the field. And he actually tags himself out when your opponent does anything basically with a card effect, and it lets you tag him out for the original Sarvis, which is really cool. You don't even have to ritual summon it, you just tag him out, put this guy back in your hand, and summon out Sarvis, which is insane. But you don't want to open him because he's a little bit of a brick, but 1 is really all you need because he's searchable. We then played 3 copies of Diviner of the Heralds. Diviner is great as a normal summon. This is actually probably a better normal summon in the long run than Low, because when you normal summon this out to your side of the field, it lets you send a fairy from your X deck or your deck to the graveyard, and then it increases its level, so you can send a copy of Trias to the graveyard, which is usually the target. We have a couple of targets in the extra deck, like Elder Nist and Arclight, but this card is the most important to send to the graveyard, because you can then tribute your copy of Herald to be able to summon this, and then summon Low directly from the deck. And then these 2, your copy of Low and this, actually equals into a Chaos Angel, which is insane because this is a 9 and your copy of Low is a 1, so you can go into Chaos Angel, which is insane. We then played 2 copies of Fallen of Albaz. I think 2 is right for this deck. I never really drew into it, which was great, but I feel like 2 is right just in case you want to use Brand Fusion twice. But it's really, really good in the deck to be able to use to basically just use this card as a walking super poly or step into a copy of like Mirror Jade using Brand Fusion. We then played just 3 copies of Ash Blossom. Going forward, I might main the Nibiru's or the Drolls. I'm not sure. I have a card in the spells that I may cut, but we're going to see in play testing. But this card is great because it basically just stops your opponent from touching the deck. So that's it for the monsters. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to be playing 2 copies of the ritual spell, the Prayers of the Voiceless Voice. This card is great, but you only need 2 because you can basically Foolish Barrel it with your copy of Saphira. I never had an instance that I needed more than 2. It was great in the deck, and it worked really well because you just basically send it to grave with Saphira, and then you get your ritual monster, and then use Saphira to ritual summon. I very, very rarely actually use this to ritual summon, but it has a really cool ability that if your opponent basically gets rid of one of your ritual monsters, it replaces it, which is really insane. We then play 3 copies of Branded Fusion. With this, your copies of Diviner and your copies of Low, you basically have like 9 starters in the deck, which is just basically what we were trying to do. We're trying to give the deck as much gas as possible, and it worked. We got second with it, so that's, I mean, it worked really well. This is a Foolish Burial. I'll tell you guys, the best target, if you don't have one, is usually Saphira and an Albaz to be able to summon out your cards to your side of the field. It's really important to be able to do that because this leaves the copy of the Saphira behind, so you basically have set up a ritual spell in the graveyard to be able to go in for your plays later, which is really cool because then your opponent doesn't, like, you don't even really worry about if they ash the barrier anymore because you've already sent the Saphira. We then play 3 copies of Pre-Prep. Pre-Prep is great because your ritual spell mentions Sarvis and Skull Guardian by name, so you can search out the ritual spell and your copy of Sarvis or your Skull Guardian, which 9 times out of 10 you're searching Skull Guardian with this. Basically, this is like your 12th starter, which is really insane. You play 3 copies of Pot of Prosperity. Surprisingly enough, I cited this out a lot in the games that I played for more hand traps. I may drop this going forward for more hand traps in the main. I really didn't feel like I needed it with the amount of starters that we had in the deck. So this card was good, but at the same time, like, I didn't want to banish what I was usually banishing, which was like Typhon Zeus, one of the Dynamundos, every so often if I didn't see that I was going to go into it because I had Branded Fusion. Maybe like Elder Entity Nist, Arclight, and either one of these 2. Like, it was really good. Like, these were really good too, but like, I just didn't feel like this was really necessary, so I may cut it for like nibs in the main. We then play 3 copies of Triple Tactics Talents. Again, this is something that I may cut going forward for more hand traps. It did come in handy it came in handy in a Salamandrate matchup, but I ended up drawing 2 of them, so it was a little bit of a brick. I wish it would have been more hand traps, so going forward, I may drop it for Droll and Nib, or even Effect Veiler in the main, but these are still really good because they let you snipe hand traps out of your opponent's hand, or let you draw 2, but it's still really good in the deck. I may end up citing these, though. I may switch them around where I play, like, the 3 Nibiru in the main over this, just because Nibiru is so impactful this format, especially if you like lose die roll. We then play 3 copies of Barrier. This card is kind of like 10 key for the deck, but it also gives you a really cool ability that while you control a copy of Low and a ritual monster, a light ritual monster, your opponent must attack the highest, or basically attack the ritual monster, makes it so they can't attack Low. She's like inside the barrier. Also, light monsters that you control with cannot be targeted by card effects, which is really insane. But every single turn that this card is on the field, it's going to give you card advantage because it lets you add a Skull Guardian or a Voiceless Voice card from deck to hand. So it lets you basically grab anything that you need, which is really cool. So this card is definitely a 3F. So that's it for the spells. Let's get into the traps. So with the traps, we're going to be playing a single copy of Radiance. Radiance is really good. It's basically a pop, which is why you use this card. I like it a lot in the deck, but I feel like 1 is fine. And then we play 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence. Impermanence is insane in this deck because it just basically negates monster effects and also locks down columns of spells and traps. This really worked well in the matches that I played, and I really like this card because it hit a lot of problem cards. Like hitting Magician Souls and stuff like that is just hilarious with this card, but it's really good. Like, this card is really, really good in the deck, and it's just really good to be able to use this card in a lot of different matchups. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to be playing 2 copies of Mirror Jade. Mirror Jade's really good. Mirror Jade is a spot removal, and against Yugioh, this card actually won me the game because it baited out a Super Poly, because it was either I played against Yugioh, and it was either stop this or lose the Yugioh, and they had to like play the Super Poly, and then I'd like that lost the Mirror Jade, which was fine because it was just bait for like the Voiceless Voice cards. So this card is insane to be able to just go into because your opponent's going to try and out this as quickly as possible. They're going to start losing advantage. We then also play a single copy of Lubellion. You only need 1 Lubellion. We play 2 copies of Albion. Albion's great in the deck because it does require a light monster, so you can leave that Saphira behind. The second copy is usually just for the Mirror Jade, but it's really good. I feel like I didn't need anything more than this. I might I might play Titaniclad going forward because you can make it, and it's pretty good in the deck because it's really big, and it gives you another target to fusion summon into. We then play a single copy of Elder Emptiness because it pops cards with Diviner. Chaos Angel because you can make it with Trias and Low, which is insane. This card came up every so often, and it was pretty good. We play a single copy of Herald of Arclight. Herald of Arclight, if it touches the grave, searches Ritual Spell, Ritual Monster. We play 1 Typhon and 1 Zeus. I never summon these. Never summoned them. You probably could drop these. I kept prospering them away anyways. Probably could drop them for the Titaniclad and something else. We play double Dynamundo. Dynamundo is the most important card in the entire extra deck, besides Mirror Jade and the branded cards, because this card is basically Phoenix Wing Wind Blast when you summon it to your side of the field, and it also has the ability during your opponent's turn, you contribute it to bring back a ritual monster from the grave, so you can bring back your copy of your Skull Guardian to your side of the field, and once you bring back Skull Guardian, Low will follow it out, because basically, with this deck, you need to keep in mind that as you're playing it, wherever Low goes, your copy of Skull Guardian, or vice versa. Wherever your Skull Guardian is going to go, like if it gets summoned to the field, your copy of Low follows it, which is really cool. We then play a single copy of SP Little Knight. Surprisingly, I never summoned it. It was really good in playtesting. I never summoned it in the tournament. But it's still really good, and I wouldn't cut it because it's just insane. But if you don't have it, and you're trying to build this deck, you can play like Nightmare Phoenix, or you could put the Titaniclad right here if you wanted to. If you're trying to make a more budget version of this deck, but this card is a double interruption. If you got it, play it. We then finally play a single copy of Link Kribo. Link Kribo is really good because Low is level 1, and then Relinquished Anima for when your opponent does not play around it. If they try and fill up a board, you can basically just summon out Low, place Barrier, use this, and try and eat a card off the field, which is hilarious. If you know they have something that they're going to try and stop you with later, but this card really adds pressure, which is why I really liked this card. So that's it for the extra deck. Let's get into the side deck. So for the side deck, pretty simple, straightforward. 3 Nibiru, because Nibiru is really impactful this format. I might change the pros in the main for this. I feel like Nibiru would have been really good in the main in the tournament. I kept seeing opportunities that I could have mained this. And I might, going forward over the pros or the talent, I might side talents. 3 copies of Droll. Droll was pretty good if my opponent did not open up 4 Salamandrate names. This would have won me a duel, but they did. They had everything, which is okay. It happens. But this card is really, really insane to be able to play because it just deals with like a lot of searching decks, and it's really good, again, this format. So Droll is like kind of like a must. It needs to either in the main or the side. I might try Prospout for this because I feel like Hand Traps is just a way to go with this deck now. I really don't like back row. I don't know if you guys can tell. So we play 3 copies of Cosmic. There's a lot of decks right now that you can just set this, and in the Fire King matchup, you can just deal with cards, which is hilarious to be able to just set this card to your side of the field and use it like a trap card. If you're going first, if you're going second, you can just spot remove cards off the field. We play 3 copies of Evenly. Again, I will reiterate, we don't like back row. So this card just deals with like overextending, and is just really good to be able to go second with. And then finally, we play 3 copies of Summon Limit, because you can easily get away with just summoning out like Low Skull Guardian and just like have Skull Guardian in the hand and like summon it out to your side of the field. But you can easily do that, which is what's really nice. So Summon Limit is like really live in this deck because it doesn't hurt us at all, because once you establish board, you really just don't need it anymore. Like you don't need to summon like 3 or 4 times. You can just use this and it's fine. Like you do not walk into Nib into this deck unless you like open Diviner and have to go Diviner and you get like really greedy and you want to step into like Chaos Angel. You really don't need to summon more than like 2 or 3 times in a turn, and you can even break it down to like 2 depending on what you have. So this was really impactful and really helped. So that is it. That is it for the deck. I really enjoyed the deck. It was super fun to be able to play. I absolutely love Voiceless Voice. It's super fun to be able to play. It's crazy how easy it is to play it with the branded cards, because the branded cards really add an advantage to the deck. Because before in playtesting, I really only summoned like Dynamundo from the extra deck, maybe SP every so often. But when you end on like Dynamundo from my like playtesting and like playing it in the tournaments, I feel like you kind of walk into like Bestials a little bit too much, and so I ended up not like going for Dynamundo as much and just leaving the Skull Guardian on the field with low because it's already in a gate and you already just don't need the next search, so it's fine because you just search the Saphira later and it's fine. Like you just have so many plays that you can go into, and you just search the Saphira off this for follow-up, and I just didn't need the Dynamundo. So I ended up going for the branded package, and I really would not go back. I really feel like this is the way to go with this deck because we do have Branded Fusion at 3, and it's just so many cool options. But again, you guys should definitely check out the merch store. Get yourself a t-shirt. Get yourself one of the Field Centers. They're awesome. And that's going to do for this one, guys. Quick shout out to Savannah, who's recording this. I really appreciate you recording it. But that's pretty much going to do it for this one. And shout out to Bud's Place for always being an awesome locals. And we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.